What's happening next is a hearing test. I check one of these boxes on the internet, and so this company, Hearing Life, uh, maybe it was through the mail, I can't remember what, has its free hearing test. So, they call me, set up a time for 9 o'clock today, and, they would, it's going to be way out of my price range. They got my insurance card number, but I'm pretty sure my insurance won't help on this at all. But they were saying how great this month was because they were taking $2,000 off their highest model. Now, what does that mean? It still costs somewhere between $2,000 and $5,000. What we're seeing too now is they've made hearing aids a non-prescription item. So now you can just buy them. Now you got to be careful because some of the places that are selling them, they're just amplifiers. Well, normally you don't want to just amplify sound. You want to have some intelligent way of separating voices from all the other noises. So if you just make it louder, I suppose someone that's equally has a hearing problem in all areas, just turning the volume up might help. But we find, with the TV, if we just keep turning it up, it doesn't help a lot because it becomes unpleasant, to that level where you're hearing the voices a little better, or you think you should. All that background noise goes up with it, and then, you just have the amplitude too of the sound. So then you have feels like someone's really not quite yelling at you, but they're talking really loud so you can hear, and that isn't pleasant to listen to after a while. So the idea would be to have, now in today's age, now I'm into ham radio, and I know we have what's called digital signal processing. And so what that does is electronically, it has all these circuits in it and everything, but it can be biased to pick out the human voice and reduce the noise. And so that is really a good thing. And digital signal processing too can actually modify voices so they can be understood more easily. And again, like a ham radio, I had one once where you had all kinds of settings in that, and you could adjust it. You could go to the hit the button until you finally got to the actual voice processing thing, and you could turn it to where you wanted it to make the voice more intelligible. Okay, that's what we should say. You want the voice to be intelligible, not necessarily way louder. And you could see by turning this, you could go too far. And this would actually change the tones in the voices. So you'd be talking lower, and then maybe you're low. So that side wouldn't be any good. But there's a spot in between here, depending on each individual, where they're going to bias that towards the voices, and they're actually going to be able to understand human voices better. And so I think hearing technology has had that put into it. At one time, the only thing you could adjust on a hearing aid was the volume, and there'd be a little thing you'd actually turn, this knob that's on the thing in your ear and adjust the whatever. Well, now, of course, with, Bluetooth and all of these things and microcircuitry and everything, some of them will come with a remote and allow you to adjust quite a few more parameters. Now, it'd be interesting to see what they try to sell, because, of course, in some ways, thinking, oh, I can adjust my own things, that would be a selling point, but also it's a negative point because that person's going to take that item home, they're going to mess with it, and they're not going to probably hit the right places for the settings. and they're going to be dissatisfied with these hearing aids that they bought. And, I'm sure you probably have a 30-day window where you can return them. So it's kind of like, do you really want to allow the consumer to change basic settings that might make it harder to hear human voices? So you can see that those two are a trade-off. Oh yeah, adjust it yourself, and oh yeah, mess it up yourself. So I would think a company would have those two tensions in the product they're manufacturing. So I mean, hearing aids cost a couple $1,000s. They used to be less, but now I've noticed too. Okay, like I say, now you can buy them non-prescription, and so I've seen some for $600. Now I'm not saying they're any good. I haven't really researched them, but I assume I'll get this hearing test and I'll get a, fairly high pressure sales pitch to buy something right at the time. Oh no, if you do it now, we've just done your test, we've got all the information, you can give you this much off, whatever, with the idea of trying to capture the sale during this one visit. Because they'll probably know that if the person goes home without them, they're going to be less likely to, I don't know if you can hear that. Something just gave an alarm. One of the Bible programs I have, scripture. That they go home, they're going to be less likely to call you back. But I also have tinnitus. 1998, I was working for a company that should have been closed. We were having the flood of ice storm of 1998, and businesses were closing. It was ridiculous. The trees were snapping places, power was going out. Our kids wouldn't sleep in their end of the house, kind of, because they could hear the trees. So people came out and slept in the living room instead, and the power losses and everything. Well, sure enough, this one company I work for, electroplating plays, decided they could be different than every other business in Gorham, and they would stay open no matter what. Well, I go in there, we have some equipment that whenever the power glitched, the solenoid valves would open, and so everything would drain on in this berm type area onto the floor. So that meant, the lab guy, me, had to clean that up each time. So one of the times I was doing it, I slipped and hit my head. And I have, you might call it mild or not, depending on people a lot worse, but I have, TBI, traumatic brain injury, that still affects me today. I never regained all of what I had, and I acquired tinnitus, which is this kind of I don't have it all the time, but is a very unpleasant tone that comes into your hearing. It's actually, it isn't your ears, it's your brain that does it. And it just can be very unpleasant. I mean, I can get it so badly, I kind of jump when it happens. And it can actually hurt, that surprise thing. And supposedly, some devices can take care of that. Now, maybe they're separate devices, but I've heard that I could try this myself. But maybe I'll do some research on it. If you pipe white noise into your ears for so long, let's just make up 20 minutes. So you set these headphones on or hearing aid type device for 20 minutes with it sat on that, then you turn it off, and supposedly that tone is gone. You don't hear it anymore. But we'll see. There's all these wacko type products, pills and different things you can buy that, these get rid of, these are tinnitus cures. And right on the thing it will say, this statement has not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. Well, that means it probably doesn't work. But this white noise idea, I think, works to some extent. So anyway, we'll see what they do, and I'll report back on, maybe I'm going to try to get a sheet with a summary of the results, with a quote for a hearing aid, and I'll I'll share that information with you. Bye. So he looks at my ears first and says, there's some wax in your ears, but it shouldn't be enough to affect the test. But he takes the test, and it is enough to affect the test, or to not be clear about the test. So basically, they fed these tones into my ear, but then later they put a device that hit your bone right here. So it goes, the signal goes directly into the cochlea, and they could tell that I could hear better going out around the eardrum than I could with the eardrum. So he's saying even though it didn't look like the wax was obstructing something, some of it was laying enough against the eardrum so the eardrum wasn't vibrating enough. You know, but the only way they can tell that is, you know, I take some hydrogen peroxide in warm water, stick it in, you know, lay down for a while, and then try to flush it out. I've had periods where my ears have gotten so bad that I've had to go to the doctors and have them do it. And that's generally always what they use, the warm hydrogen peroxide, because that will loosen it up enough so that it comes out. So I bought some of the products too that dissolve earwax, and when it's really bad, those products are useful. You basically take them, put it in your ear, you know, and basically lay on the other side, so that you might be laying flat on one side for 10 minutes, and then you can go do the thing where you try to flush it out with warm water. So I got to do that and come back again. Oh, here's a little screenshot of the test, but there was you can see the fall off in the higher tones, but like I say, he saw this big difference between, especially in my bad ear, fall off between what I could hear going out around my ear and what I could hear in my ear. So we'll have a follow-up. Bye.